Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 85. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardell. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I am at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev is at C2Believe, SEA2Believe. Like our videos on YouTube, dislike them, comment, tell us what you think of all the topics that we talk about. We are going to begin with women's soccer. The OL Reign have been in action twice since our last podcast. They had a 1-1 draw against Racing Louisville FC. They lost yesterday 2-1 to the Houston Dash at home at Lumen Field. They are back in action next Sunday against New Jersey, New York City, Gotham FC. That's Sunday at noon at Lumen Field. And if you can't make it out to Lumen Field, it is on Paramount Plus if you happen to have that service as well. So get out there and support the OL Reign. Also want to give a shout out to Sue Bird as she played her final home regular season game against the Las Vegas Aces on Sunday. I was planning on going, but money along with COVID worries didn't allow that to happen. But hopefully that'll kind of clear up and they'll have a home playoff game, and I'll try and make it out to that one as well. But the Las Vegas Aces spoiled Sue Bird's home regular season finale, 89-81. UW alum Kelsey Plum was playing very well, as was Asia Wilson for the Aces. Sean, are you sad about Sue Bird playing her final home game? And are you going to watch a playoff game when they're in them?
I will watch the playoff games when they go. I assume they're going to go.
They're already in, yes.
Yeah. I am sad, but I also pointed out somebody that basically said that when Sue Bird started playing in the WNBA is when the Mariners playoff drought started. So I'm assuming as soon as she retires, the Mariners go back. So I'm not sad that she was retiring for one reason only. She's won a ton. So as soon as she gets knocked out, the Mariners can do a thing finally. No, but it's Sue Bird. We already talked about our Mount Rushmore of top 4 GOATs in Seattle sports history. Yeah, she's won everything and anything you can win in the WNBA. So, or for women's basketball in general. So yeah, anytime the legend retires, and she's still really good too. Like that's the thing. She's not like going out like someone who should have retired a couple years ago and like they're the 9th man on the bench. She's still like really, really good. So I respect people who go out when they still have game left.
Kevin, any thoughts on Sue Bird as her career comes down to a close here?
Yeah, no, like as we kind of already mentioned on this podcast, she'll go down as one of the greatest. And thankfully, she was in the Seattle area for providing that, giving us some form of wins for the lack of winning that's happened in Seattle other than the Seahawks recently. But, I mean, it's possible that we might have a home game. So, I mean, technically there might be one more, and hopefully we can go out with a win on that. But other than that, it's, as Sean mentioned, it's best to go out on top versus crippling up onto the court, like hunched over like Hunchback of Notre Dame type crap. So yeah, it's good to see her go.
Yeah, I was able to tune in yesterday. As I said, I was planning on going, but it just didn't work out. And I wrote a column in the Journal about having people go out support Sue Bird for her last game. And I had someone who lives in Mason County text me a picture of them from the game. So that was kind of nice to know. I had at least a little bit of inspiration on a few people in Mason County to go out and support Sue Bird for her last game. I think the coolest moment was when the young fan gave her a flower right before she was about to inbounds. And then she's like, no, I can't really take this right now, but maybe I'll get you back later. So yeah, like Sean said, that was a crazy thing I heard as well. I think I saw it on Twitter where Sue Bird came into the league right after the Mariners made the playoffs last. So Sue Bird's greatness has affected the Mariners. That's unfortunate, but luckily we had 21 years of Sue Bird, so that was pretty sweet. So right now the Storm are the 4 seed in the WNBA, so they are going to host at least one playoff game. They did that last year and lost, so hopefully they can kind of send Sue Bird out on a high note, maybe reach the semifinals or even the finals of the WNBA. So it was great to see all the fans come out. Best crowd in Climate Pledge Arena history so far. So a lot of support from the city of Seattle for Sue Bird, and rightly so, as she finally decides to hang it up. So kudos to Sue Bird, and looking forward to the playoff run. Also want to mention the Seattle Sounders. They've had a little bit of trouble. They have a win and a loss since we last run the podcast. They won 1-0 to FC Dallas on Tuesday after we recorded, and then they lost 2-1 to Atlanta on the road on Saturday. And they are back in action for their last home match of August this Sunday. Taking on Real Salt Lake at home before they take on the Galaxy, the Timbers, and Orlando City to wrap up August, back in town September 4th, and then also take on Austin the day after Sean's birthday. So get out there, support the Seattle Sounders. But let's move on to a season that is upcoming, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, not a whole lot of news out of the Seahawks as we get close to our NFL preview episode. Be sure to check that out as always. But I did pull from the Seattle Times. Bob Condata of the Seattle Times ranked the roster for the Seattle Seahawks, and I want to see what you guys think of his top 10 rankings. I just took the top 10. I used one of my free articles, copied into a Google Doc, so that's how I got around the paywall. And I'm just going to list off the top 10 for you guys. So number 10. Are
these the best players?
Yes.
Okay.
Top 10 players on the Seattle Seahawks by Bob Condata. Number 10, Poona Ford. Number 9, Uchenna Nwusu. I'm going to mess up that name all season. Number 8, Daryl Taylor. Number 7, Noah Fant. Number 6, Rashad Penny. Number 5, Jordan Brooks. Number 4, Jamal Adams. Number 3, DK Metcalf. Number 2, Quandre Diggs. And number 1, Tyler Lockett. So, Kevin, what do you think of this list? And would you shuffle any of them around, take any of them out of the top 10? What do you think?
Personally, I think the list doesn't matter because this team's gonna suck. But some parts yes, some parts no. I would Noah Fant has no business being even in that. He was doing pretty much nothing in Denver, and he's probably going to do nothing over here. He was a high. I mean, when he's coming out of the draft, yes, he had a lot of hype, but hasn't really done a whole lot since. I probably put Poona Ford a little bit higher, especially over the guy from San Diego that we don't really know a whole lot about. Because sure, he might have done good in San Diego, but doing well in another defensive scheme under another defense, that's a whole another kit and caboodle. So people that have come from other teams, unless they're like big name superstars that they've got their stuff, then that's a whole thing. Rashad Penny is, I don't even know if you can put that on there because Rashad Penny had 4 good weeks last year and has just been hurt. So it's can you really put him in that top list? And to have your, a running, not to say that having a good running back is a bad thing, but the fact that you don't have a quarterback in that list is what's the troubling part. You should have a Russell Wilson being the number 1 there, but you don't because you traded that off. So all in all, I mean, I like Tyler where he's at. I'm glad he put Tyler above DK because Tyler is better. Quandre Diggs, a lot of people there's a lot of Seahawks fans that have a gigantic clue. We'll go South Park on this. They have a giant raging clue for him, to put it in a PG-13 term. He's good, but they're acting like he's ridiculous, the next coming of Earl Thomas type good, and that is yet to be seen. I want to see more consistency out of him, especially after he just got paid. Or we going to see the exact same thing? He's got to stay healthy. So I to put him at number 2 overall, it's a little. He's had there's been some stuff that because of his picks and things like that. Some of the picks were not him doing things. It's just more bad quarterbacks making bad throws, throwing ducks and he's just there, type of deal. And we pointed that out on film this podcast before too. So Not to say that he hasn't done good things on his own, because he's made some plays that were on him too that he did. But to say that he's number 2 overall on the roster might be a little bit of a stretch, but there's not a whole lot of good on this roster. So like, I just don't get the point. It'd be like ranking the top 10 Jets. Like, I don't think we're at the Jets level, but we're kind of on the way there, if that makes any sense. Like, even though we did just have a really good draft, but for a team that's probably not going to go above 500, I don't know why there's a point of doing a top 10 list. So I'll pass it on.
Sean, what do you think?
So this is just like talent regardless of position, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the best at their position. So number 1 wasn't even mentioned. The punter, Michael Dixon, best 1-2 punter in the league, and he's not even mentioned. He is arguably one of the top 3 punters in the league, and so he has to be number 1 because Tyler is not a top 3 receiver. Tyler's very good, but he's not a top 3 receiver, and Michael Dixon is a top 3 in his position. So
I don't know the entire context. I believe it's just the best players on the roster, not accounting.
Dixon is what is asked.
I agree with you. Yeah,
to do, he's very good. He's honestly our best at our position at any position. Which even when Russell was here at the end of the last 2 years, Dixon was probably better at his position than Russell was at his position because Dixon's 1 or 2 like every single season, and he had a monster year last year. And everyone kind of just brushed it off, but Dixon was really good. I'd say Tyler to DK 3. And then I have Puna at 4. Puna's really, really underrated as a player. He's very, very good. I have, man, at this point, this is where it gets a little Nwosu, probably 5. He has done it for a couple of years at least. He's a serviceable player. That's fine. And then after that, I have Quandre Diggs, then Jamal Adams. After that, I don't think the list is completable after that. Like, I just don't think there's guys that have played enough. Like, you could say if this list was like projecting forward, how it would feel. Like Taylor on this list played like 12 games. Like, I just, like Kevin said, Rashad Penny, what has he played 12 games in his career? Like, what are we talking about here with like best players? Like, you have to play like a full season or, continuously or do something to do that. I would say maybe Jordan Brooks is the next guy. He showed flashes. He's definitely getting better. So I'd say Jordan Brooks is the next guy. But like, we talk about like, some other guys like the O-line, there's nobody there. You even mention number 3 receiver. You don't mention, like Kevin said, no quarterback. You don't mention any running backs because I can't cut Rashad Penny because again, he doesn't do it. So there, Shelby Harris, he's a guy, but he's kind of just thrown in as maybe Al Woods at like 7 or something like that. But yeah, Daryl Taylor, no. Cody Barton, no. Any cornerbacks, no. So yeah, it's this team, like Kevin said, the draft is really good. So maybe in a year, this list looks a lot different with Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, Tyreek Woolen, maybe Trey Brown's healthy. Yes, other corners mixed in there, like Kobe Bryant. But right now, it's just hard to formulate 10 players that year in and year out, who's going to be good. Like Kevin said, you traded it all to build it back up. So maybe in a year, we'll have a better idea of this team.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the list for me, I would go Tyler DK 1-2. Personally, I would probably move Quandre down to 3. Jamal Jordan, 4 or 5. You can make the argument. I'm fine with him there. I would take Rashad Penny out entirely. I don't think even with those 5 games he had last year, he's warranted a position on this list. Like Sean said, I would include Michael Dixon on this list. I'd probably replace Rashad Penny with Michael Dixon at 6. Obviously, you could make the argument that Michael Dixon should be higher, but I think 6 is a reasonable spot, and arguably he's top 5 player on this team. Noah Fant, I would agree with Kevin on that. I don't see any reason to include him on this list. And like Sean already mentioned, I would put Al Woods on this list and take out Noah Fant. Daryl Taylor, Owusu, Puna Ford, all good players. I feel like you can I feel like Puna is the probably best of those 3, so you could probably throw him in at 8. And then I would probably swap Taylor and Ford on this list. So probably go Ford 8, and then Owusu, and then Taylor. And you get, like you guys said, it's hard because you look at the roster, and I've been looking at the roster trying to figure out who I would take out and swap in, and it's a tough choice, and that's bad in the sense that there's no one that really stands out. So hopefully this season we'll have some players stand out. Some players can emerge, like you mentioned, the Kobe Bryants, the Tariq Woolens, Charles Crosses, all the picks from this year. Hopefully they pan out.
Can I say it's scary, and I don't think it's going to go well, but it could be a good thing because like what Kevin has said and what we did in the past, if you do it with Russ Wilson, you have nothing to lose. Let the kids play. It doesn't matter. Start both corners. I don't care. Like Artie Burns, that's fine, but I don't need to see Artie Burns and Justin Coleman starting corners. See what you have in the kids. Maybe not start them week 1, get them a little acclimated, but after a while, after a couple of weeks, you need to know who these are. Abe Lucas, Charles Cross, play them. Like you need them real reps because who cares? You have to play these guys. So it gives you a certain amount of freedom. It's kind of what the Mariners were doing when they were able to take chances on Austin Nola, all these relief pitchers, because teams were cutting guys. The Mariners like, we need roster spots, and we think we see something with this guy. Pick him up. And it turned out they were churning talent, making talent out of something. And you have a chance to view that talent. And what I don't want you, Pete, is just to play a guy who's played longer in the NFL. You had a good draft. You had a good process. Now use the process. I know he is, Kevin, but just play him. Like you don't have any problem. And so like Matthew said, like in this year, if you play these guys, this list could be really exciting in a year, but I'm just scared he's not going to. So please just play the rookies because you have some good talented pieces. We talked about it. Both tackles, really pumped for. Both corners they drafted, super awesome. Love it both. So play them. Just play them. This could be really fun.
All right. Well, the Hawks are at Pittsburgh this Saturday for the first preseason game. Michael Bennett and Michael Robinson are going to be calling the preseason games on, I believe they're on Q13 Fox. I'm not sure where they're broadcast at, but so if you do tune in, you'll be hearing those voices. So good to hear both those guys calling some Seahawk games. But I want to ask you guys, what do you want to see? I think Sean kind of already mentioned what he wants to see, but so I'll throw it back to Sean. What do you want to see from this first preseason game?
The only thing that I really care about is no injuries. In the first couple, there's only 3 preseason games now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it's interesting to see where Pete will go with this because he probably has an old school mindset more where you play the guys less or more slowly until they start. Usually teams are now kind of going at the Sean McVay method where they're established guys. They don't play at all basically in the preseason because you know who they are. There's no point in getting them in-game air quotes reps in the preseason because it doesn't matter. So you let the kids play. But that's all I want. I just want to see a lot of game time for a lot of the rookies. And I don't care who plays quarterback because regardless, it should be Drew Lock starting anyways. So I don't care. Just whoever you play quarterback, I don't care. Give them each a half, but you play the rookies. I want to see a ton of rookies. I don't need to see third guys you picked off waiver wires 2 years ago starting a bunch. Maybe start them if you want. Give the rookies, but then play the rookies a bunch. Just rookies and be healthy.
Yeah, what I'd like to see is the first team offense. What Pete has in his mind. Now, will we see that? I doubt it, but I would like to see what this offense might look like come week 1. When Russ was playing, he didn't really play much in the preseason. That's fine, whatever. But for a lot of these guys, like Sean mentioned, there's quite a few rookies that need to get some experience, like the Charles Crosses, the Gabe Lucases, the Kenneth Walkers, for example. So I want to get some rookies out there, and I do want to see what this offense might look like, because there are some questions, and we'll get to that in a little bit here at some positions. But I think the defense, for the most part, there might be a few competition battles, probably cornerback for the most part, but other than that, I feel like it's probably fairly set at this point. So I want to see what the offense looks like. Kevin, what about you?
Well, luckily for Matthew, I have the exclusive of what the first team offense is going to look like. Everybody, I'm glad you all tuned in because we have it right here for you on this podcast, Washington East West Sports Podcast. And the offense is going to be 3 words: run, pass. That's it. It's going to be run, pass. going to be super predictable, and it's going to super suck. Like there's no way. Like I'm not even intrigued at all for the offense because I already know what it's going to be. Like you could, I mean, would it be great to see the offensive tackle shine? The ones that we drafted, yes. Should Kenneth Walker, if Kenneth Walker breaks off an 80-yard run, cool beans. Like, doesn't matter. Like, once the actual games matter and stuff like that, it's not going to really make a difference because 1982 football doesn't win in 2022. What I'm interested in seeing, in the only way, because if Pete Carroll doesn't retire before his contract's up or doesn't get hit by a bus by some random thing, the only way this team makes a return to somewhat glory is if you kind of do what you did in the beginning and your defense is just balls out like ridiculous to where your quarterback doesn't have to do a whole lot. You just game manage and your defense just holds them to under like 17 points, which is super hard to do, especially nowadays in today's NFL with the higher up, with people like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert, just throwing ball, all over the field. But it can be done. It can be done because they're human and they make mistakes, and you can plan around it with a game plan to where you can limit them despite their greatness. But it's going to be hard to do, and it's going to be very hard to do if Pete Carroll doesn't get out of his cover 2, cover 3 mindset, because that only works when you have a once in a lifetime Hall of Fame deep type defense, and even then, like there's holes to it as well. So I want to see the defensive young kids play. I want to see those corners going. I want to see all the young talent on the D line. I don't want to see Shelby Harris out there. I want to see the younger kids that you drafted and undrafted free agency, and I want to see what this is going to look like. And if Pete Carroll, with this new 3-4, actually gets out of his own head, so to speak, and changes things up and gets out of this 1982, because that's the only thing that's going to bring him back. Because unless you find a crazy good offensive, like a Russell Wilson type elite quarterback, and even if we do, then you have the giant anchor of what he had on him, which is Pete Carroll. You can still make it back if you have a really, really good defense. So that's what I'm going to be looking for, is what can these young defensive kids do to where hopefully we have the pieces there to make a push. And that's the only way we'll get back there, in my opinion.
All right. Well, one last topic on the Seahawks. There's been a lot of, I mainly see it on Twitter and Reddit, but there's a lot of team Genos, team locks. People are kind of choosing sides, who they want to be the starting quarterback. And I just want to get us on the record as to who we want as a starting quarterback. So I'm going to start. I want Drew Lock as a starting quarterback. I think Sean has already explained it kind of the way I feel about it as well, where Geno had his chance in New York. I do not want to see Geno out there. I want to see what Drew has. As long as he's healthy, give him the entire season. If he sucks, cool. If he's great, cool. I just want to see what he is with one full season, and then we can move from there. Geno filled in valiantly last season when Russ was hurt. Cool. If that occurs again, cool. But I want to see what Drew has. You traded Russ for this guy. Give this guy a shot. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But you have him, give him a shot. Sean, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, Drew Lock's played a full season basically before, but yeah, Geno is who Geno is. He's a backup, which is fine. You need a backup. He is a capable backup. He's not one of the three of us running around out there. There are definitely worse backups in the NFL, and that's fine. But yeah, you have a very good idea. The download is almost complete on Geno Smith. You are still more questions with Drew Lock. And so that's why you just have to run with the question mark and be like, let's see what you got. Like Matty said, if it's good, awesome. I'll be wrong and the Seahawks will win a bunch of games. That's totally fine with me if that's what it takes. If I'm right, unfortunately, and we get a high pick, then we get a high pick and hopefully draft a quarterback. You got to roll with Drew Lock. He's the question mark still.
Kevin?
I mean, if I really had to choose, I'd choose Team Russell Wilson, but we can unfortunately can't do that
That ship is sailed.
because of stupidity. But I will say, and I mentioned this, I think, I don't know if it was on this podcast. I think it was the other podcast. That I did like Drew Lock's what I saw in his college tape, to where I was kind of a fan of him going into that draft. Now, since he hasn't really proven a whole lot, a lot of people have said that it's because his relationship with the coach in Denver wasn't great, so he wasn't really given a chance. We'll see on that. But even then, like even here, he's not going to technically really get a chance because the ball's going to be in his hands and very minimal because we're going to, like I said, we're going to be running the ball. Which, I mean, that's kind of a good thing for a younger quarterback, to be more of a game manager versus, unless he has the crazy elite talent just deep down inside and he just got to pull that crap out of you, like Eminem says on his songs. But I just don't really see that. I see him more as top. If he hits his peak, like say he has a breakout year type deal, I think his ceiling is like an Alex Smith type, like game management, decent, good arm with moderate to good decision making.
I would take that in a heartbeat if you offered that right now.
Like I
If
said,
you told me he could be
yes.
Alex Smith, I'd be like,
Oh
sorry.
yeah, like I would take, like if that's what he turns out to, like I said, this is him just like I said, going in, pulling that crap out and surprising literally everybody,
That'd be a massive.
proving everybody wrong. But that's his ceiling gap though, because people are like he's not gonna pull out and be like the next Drew Brees. Like he's not gonna be that, people. Like no way in hell. His ceiling, if he actually figures it out in Seattle and everything looks good, is an Alex Smith, which I would take. I would. Is it better than having Russell Wilson? No. But for the situations that the cards that we've been dealt, I would take it in a heartbeat. So I think you do have to run with that because you already know what you have in Geno Smith. Geno gives you a little bit more mobility in breakdowns when like the pocket collapses, but you got the tackles, you got the young big boy tackles to kind of solidify that line, even though yes, they're young, they're going to make mistakes. So I think you have the ability to keep Drew Lock back there to where he can make those throws and see what you have in that versus putting a backup Geno and him having to run like 5 yards every now and then and just being average type deal.
And I just looked it up just for reference, and this is the final year of Drew Lock's contract. So he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year. So this is basically what feels like a prove it year for Drew Lock, because I kind of feel like he's in the Mitchell Trubisky situation where like they kind of ran out his contract and then it didn't really work. So we're just going to let you go. And Mitch has bounced around. He's been a fine backup, but I feel like if this doesn't go well for Drew Lock, he's going to be reserved to backup status or out of the league, one of the two. So let us know what you think of the Seattle Seahawks, the quarterback situation, the top 10 players as written by Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Bayerscore Matt. Sean's at Sean Scobetti. Kev's at Kevsbly. No. He's at C2 Believe. Habits Die Hard. CSEA to Believe. Go ahead and like our videos, comment on them, tell us what you think about all the topics we talk about. Let us move on to the best team in Seattle right now, and that is the Seattle Mariners. And right now they are currently losing to the Yankees of New York 7-3 in the top of the 9th inning. But before we get to the Yankees, let's talk about the week that was. So they were in New York when we were last on this podcast. They took 2 of 3 from the Yankees, and then they came home for a 4-game series against the LA Angels and split with 2 wins and 2 losses. They are hosting the Yankees for a 3-game set for a day off and then a 9-game road trip. So, Sean, what have you thought of the Seattle Mariners this last week?
They've done just fine. I think they're 8 and like you said, 8-9 since the All-Star break. And they've played Houston twice, New York twice. They're going to be 8-10, probably what it's looking like after today. And they got 2 more tough games, so they could be 8-12. I would like it to be a little bit better than that, but that is doing enough to survive the Houston Astros and the New York Yankees. Like those two teams are really good. Spoiler alert. And you've done enough by beating the Rangers and the Angels and you even beat a series against the Yankees. You just needed to keep your head above water. The Mariners have the second or third easiest schedule after August 10th. I talked about it last week. Just survive. And you could even be not in a wild card spot, and I'd be totally fine with it. Just don't be buried by this point. And they're not. Regardless if they lose these next three, they will not be buried. And I saw a stat coming into yesterday, so today not included. Baltimore has to play Toronto 16 more times, I believe. So the two of the teams in the wild card hunt are going to play each other. And then the Rays, I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many times that they both play the Rays, but they both have series with the Rays, who is the second wild card team. And they both have to play the Yankees a ton too. So those three teams are going to fight each other for a lot. So you will have games. One of the two teams will have to lose and will have to win at some point. So that's going to help you. And then you again control your destiny. The only teams you play with above winning record are you play Cleveland. Cleveland isn't, and Chicago White Sox. Those two teams are in the wild card chase with you. So they've been fine since the All-Star break. They haven't looked great. Can we just, Mariner fans, just relax every time the Mariners don't win 2 games in a row, have a 2-game losing streak? They're like, the world is ending and they want to burn down the Mariners' entire organization. I get it. They didn't get a bat. They didn't overpay for Juan Soto, but just calm down and relax. Everyone's like, Jerry's failed all the time. And they come out 2 days later and absolutely just destroy the Angels. And I'm like, guys, that's baseball. That is baseball. I made a comment, me and Kevin were in the chat. Someone said, not calling anybody out. They're right to feel this way, but they're like, oh, Mariners don't have any bats. And I go, yeah, it looks frustrating right now. But let's keep in mind the Yankees, the New York Yankees, until that day, hadn't scored more than 3 runs in a week. The Yankees are struggling. The Yankees been no hit twice this year. Random things happen in baseball. Teams go stretches without hitting. It is fine. The San Diego Padres got absolutely dumpster fired this whole last week by the Dodgers. And no, they scored 4 runs in 3 games. They didn't do anything. So and last I saw they're losing 1-0 today against the Giants. It's okay. You can lose 2 games in a row and look bad for 2 games. Just breathe. They're totally fine. They're in a wild card position right now and have an easy schedule. This is the fun part, guys. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I've been able to catch a few games this last week. The one most notable for me was Wednesday is our print day, so I'm kind of just correcting pages. And luckily, the Yankees play on the East Coast, and I was able to watch the game at work at 10 a.m. And I turned it on, and that first inning with the home runs from Suarez, from Santana, and Kelnick was the third one. That was. I'm like the only one cheering in the newsroom, and I'm getting a couple weird looks, but that was okay because they won 7-3. And then I did watch some of the Friday game where the Mariners were down and came back, ended up losing in extras. But overall, like Sean said, they split with the Angels, took 2 of 3 from the Yankees. Really can't be too upset about this last week. I saw a tweet from that Wednesday game. Castillo, the Mariners don't usually get this type of run support, so don't get used to it. Definitely don't get used to it, Castillo. But I thought he looked pretty good in his opener, and to score 6 runs on Garrett Cole in the first inning was a pretty good start to that game. So they both go head to head tomorrow. So we'll see if that is the same. I doubt it, but we'll see what happens. So overall, 4-3, no big deal. Kevin, what do you think?
Well, I'll start with a minor update. It is now 8-3 Yankees. Some guy named Aaron Judge just hit a homer. I don't know who that is.
The Mariners should sign him next year.
So yeah, I hear he's good.
Throw lots of money at Aaron Judge.
God. Yeah. So it's, unless there's some miracle, it looks like it might be a loss. I'm okay with what's been going on. People need to. I think I've mentioned it I think this is the 4th time I've mentioned it this season on the podcast. And I know Sean has mentioned it a couple of times too. The Houston Astros are good. They're really good. The Yankees, they're good. So the fact that we took 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, I feel is pretty good. Now, splitting with the Angels is probably not good, where guys like Ward and Fletcher are getting runs on you, like guys you've barely ever heard of. That's not good. I mean, you kind of didn't let. I mean, like literally right now, it's just Ohtani because Trout's hurt. So it's literally just don't let Ohtani hurt you, and then you kind of did that, but then you let like a bunch of nobodies. But I mean, like we've also mentioned it before too. I can't get too down on them because they are paid to play baseball, but you are better than them, so you should be winning and sweeping those series. Those can kind of come back to haunt you in the butt, especially as your schedule gets easier. As Sean mentioned, you have the second easiest schedule going down, especially after this series. That's when it's
second or third. Don't quote me. It's one. It's
I
one
mean,
of those
yeah.
two. Yeah.
It's super easy. Yeah. You pretty much just have after this, you have the Padres and Atlanta. That's really the only teams that you have to really, I mean, maybe Cleveland, but even then,
They're technically over 500. Like they're, you know what I mean? Like they're over 500.
But I mean, they just designated Mill for assignment because he's been
horrible.
Yeah, he's been terrible this year. So it's kind of like the Ramirez show over there and a couple of young kids, but that Class A guys out here are really good too. But anywho, sorry, getting off track here. You have a super easy schedule. So like start sweeping. Like you need to, I'm not saying you have to sweep all of them, but like you need a series win on all these easy teams at least minimum, and you need a couple sweeps as well. Because as Sean mentioned, the AL East is going to beat the crap out of each other. So you have that opportunity. You shouldn't be missing out on a wild card spot. You're not going to make the division. That's clear that the Astros have pretty much locked that up. So you need to make a wild card. You have the favor of the AL East just kicking the living crap out of each other. Get a spot. Stop effing it up. Get these series wins. Just as we say in bowling, just got to fill frames, fill games, mark it out. Just win series. That's all you have to do. And you should be getting Julio back probably next week, it sounds like. And I mean, Trammell's kind of getting healthier and healthier. So other than that, your pitching's been pretty solid. I do like Mr. Castillo's start was pretty good. It wasn't like his most filthiest things, but I mean, against the Yanks, I'd say it was pretty dang good. So the only question mark kind of going forward is Marco, and we're flexing. Like, do you still stick with 6-man? I mean,
I think the rumor is they're piggybacking Kirby's starts, so they're going to kind of split a start with like some people, I guess.
Really?
That's a rumor that I've been hearing. So like one starter goes like 5 or 4 innings, and then the Kirby comes in and does like 4 innings.
And us, to people freaking out, like Gilbert had a bad outing today. It's fine. I hear the Yankees are really good. Doesn't mean don't get pissed off at Gilbert. He's been fucking amazing all year. He's allowed to have a bad inning against a really good team. It's okay. It's going to happen. He's going to bounce back. He's probably going to kick some more ass. Just let him do his thing. Like, I see so many people online just pooping their pants at our pitchers, like when they have like one, as Sean mentioned, like when they have 2 in a row, or like when a certain player is like not doing stuff defensively. Like, it's just like, calm your ass. It's okay. We'll get there. Like, so all in all, I'm okay with it. But with this easy schedule, you need to start filling out wins. So.
All right. Well, let's talk about the trade deadline first. And no, Juan Soto is not a Mariner, just in case you haven't watched the Mariners for a while or didn't pay attention.
Padre.
Yeah, he is a Padre, and San Diego, someone who was there a few months ago, that's a good place to be. So good job, Juan. But let's start with the moves the Mariners made at the deadline. So they acquired 2 injured players from the San Francisco Giants in left-hander Matthew Boyd and catcher Kurt Caselli. And they also picked up infielder Jake Lamb from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Matthew Boyd is pretty excited. When that move was made, I follow a couple beat writers. He's from Mercer Island, Washington. So welcome home, bud. And hopefully you'll recover and be a good pitcher for the Mariners. Sean, what do you think of these deadline moves? And satisfied? Should have done more? Too much? What do you think?
Um, I don't think they should have done more. If people wanting a bat, I don't think they should have traded more. They should have signed somebody in the offseason. That would have been the easiest thing because all that takes is money and not prospects. I think and I was listening to a lot of things and reading a lot of things. Well, despite what Mariner fans tell you within the industry and what people thought and what the asking price for Castillo was, a lot of people gave the Mariners an A. They're like, look, they got the best pitcher who's healthy and has a track record. Everybody else has massive question marks and is not going to be here. And they got the best pitcher. Not only was he the best, but he is the best with a longer contract than everybody else. So it's just like you got the guy everybody wanted. Like the Yankees literally wanted him and settled for Frankie Montas. Like that's what it came down to. So yes, they didn't get like Juan Soto, but other than that, like people were talking like people wanted Brandon Drury. Brandon Drury is 3 for 28 or 3 for 24 since he got traded. Like his OPS is 630. Like he's having a career half a season at age 31, man. Like that could very easily collapse like any moment, especially going from a pitcher's park or a hitter's park like the Reds to a pitcher's park like Safe or T-Mobile Park. Like that has collapse written all over it and everyone hating it from the second it happens. And the Padres gave up their number 8 overall prospect for it, which was better than Mariners' 8th overall prospect. Like, so we're having to give up like our 6th guy to get a half-year 31-year-old Brandon Drury who's never done anything in his life before this. Like, I don't want a guy like that if I'm trading for it because the Mariners are not trying to win now. Like, they are trying to win now, but not like just this year. They're trying to win in the future also. So you don't trade future aspects for a guy like Brandon Drury or a JD Martinez. You need a backup catcher, you need a second baseman, you need a pitcher. They got a backup catcher, they got a pitcher. They didn't really address the backup the second baseman, a starting second baseman. They got Jake Lamb. He's really a corner infielder guy. He's not really a second baseman, which I'm fine with. You don't have to meet all of your needs. You try, but if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. What I would say then after the trade deadline, try and sign someone in the offseason. But Matthew's question, the trade deadline I was happy with because they got their biggest need and got the best option available with the biggest need. So I would like to give up less, but it was still a good trade deadline.
Yeah, I think Castillo was the big move. The rest are kind of smaller moves to add some depth. I think overall it was a pretty solid trade deadline, and we'll talk about the injuries here in a second. But with all those guys coming back, hopefully they can make a run down the stretch. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, for the most part, I think we did fairly well. To kind of add on to what Sean was saying, not only has he not proven it before this year, but he's also a free agent after this year. So do you really want to give up that much? Do you want to give up, Hancock to go get a guy that you're going to have for, 2.5 months that may not pan out for you to get? My main thing to quote to Mariner fans is that even though winning a championship is nice, but since sustaining that and having success over time and being able to compete for it every year is very important. Just ask the Nationals who won a World Series, but then after that, look before the Juan Soto trade, look at what they were doing, like absolutely nothing. And look at what the team that they did have when they did win, the World Series. It's night and day difference. And plus, yes, you have and that's another thing too, as we mentioned on the last podcast, with his relationship to Winker and Suarez, it's most likely a possibility that he could sign a contract with us, which would be ridiculously just awesome, because then you have your ace for the next however long he signs for, which I'm guessing would be a 4 or 5 year deal. Jake Lamb is like a utility guy. I don't know. I mean, you have Toro, but Toro's been kind of like inconsistent, to say the least. And honestly, I think you're like a really good. A lot of people haven't talked about Haggerty enough, to be honest. I think for a utility guy that not many people talk about, Haggerty is actually not bad. Like, he gives you good at bat, gives you good on base percentage. He's fast. He can steal. Like, I mean, is he like ridiculous? No, but you're not going to have an A+ at every position. So for a bench guy who's got utility, who's versatile, I think that's fine. Boyd and the other guy are just going to be bullpen to eventually, when they come back, hopefully they replace other people that get hurt. Like, because I mean, I also, it just gives you bullpen depth too for if you make a playoff run as well. Because I know what's his face got hurt, the guy that we got from Tampa,
Castillo
is on the IL, and then who knows? Like I said, injuries can happen, especially as you get into later into baseball. So having more guys that can get you, even though they're both hurt at the moment, having guys later on that can get you depth if you're going to make a playoff push helps. And we didn't give up a whole lot for him. So all in all, did it suck? Yes, what we gave up, of course. But like I said, you have an ace. We kind of went over this last time. And you just do what you do now and play for the long game. Don't play for the short game. Like Aston, even though the Nationals kind of reloaded on prospects, but that's going to take time for them to build up to that. So as National fans, like they probably would have loved sustained, making trips to the playoffs and fighting for it versus, let's all go for this year and then poop the bed next, the next 6 years type of deal. So.
All right. Well, before we get to the injuries, let's at least acknowledge some news around the baseball world. Vin Scully passed away last week. For us Mariners fans, we had the pleasure of listening to Dave Niehaus for a long time before he passed away. So to have someone like Vin Scully pass away is obviously tough news to hear. But as Sean and I were growing up, we always used to listen to Dave Niehaus on the radio. So, great broadcasters are hard to come by. So condolences to the Scully family. But what a career in baseball broadcasting Vin had. And, it just makes me think of Dave Niehaus a lot. So condolences to the Scully family. Also wanted to make a mention that the Mariners are currently experiencing some success in part because of a move that they made on Sunday. And yes, I know that animals can often bring good luck, but now the Mariners have Tucker, a 4-year-old lab retriever mix, just adopted from Okan Dogs, and the Mariners did win that game. Not looking like it's going to hold the streak today for Tucker, but you really can't go wrong with a dog in the clubhouse. I don't know how this hasn't been a thing before. So
I think he travels with the team too.
Yeah, I think so. So, welcome to Team Tucker. Please get a long-term deal whenever you get a chance. But let's talk about some Mariners injuries. So there's a lot of guys right now. So Dylan Moore was on the 10-day IL August 3rd. Looks like he is working his way back. Probably next week is what it looks like. Ken Giles played in High Everett on August 6th. Taylor Trammell was dealing with a hamstring injury. He went 1 for 4 with a home run August 6th for Tacoma. Julio, like we mentioned, he went on the 10-day IL August 7th. Last week. So it looks like he will probably be back. Looks like Wednesday or Friday, according to Corey Brock of The Athletic. Diego Castillo is set to begin a rehab assignment, and I believe he began it I think today. And then Matthew Boyd, as we mentioned, he faced hitters in a live batting practice session Monday, according to Corey Brock of The Athletic. And then just on the injury docket today on ESPN, Jesse Winker left Monday's game against the Yankees due to back spasms, according to Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. So first of all, welcome back, Mitch Haniger. Nice home run in the first inning today. But what do you guys think of these injuries? And I mean, let's talk about expectations when this team is fully healthy. Like, what do you expect down the stretch run of the season? Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you first.
No, update. It's now 9-3, but they're kind of hopefully going to get healthy at the right time. It sounds like most of those guys will probably be back. Hopefully, I mean, Julio is your biggest piece, probably, other than maybe.
Oh, it's Julio.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
I think Castillo and Giles will be important because, like I said, you need that bullpen depth, especially Castillo, because he's been pretty solid this year. So, I mean, more or less, it's while now that Haneker's back, looks like he's getting things in a full swing, especially after that home run, as you just mentioned today. To have the bats back at full capacity is going to be something that's huge. Gets you more, because that's the thing that's been kind of struggling a lot lately is, I mean, yes, sure, Gilbert had a rough day today, but and Marco too, you know, with us. But I think that's going to get better over time, to where when you have a healthier bullpen, you don't have to play Marco as many innings as you probably did. But all in all, Julio and the bats are going to be what's the key and most important. So getting that back is going to be super, super special. So I'll pass that off.
Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, like Kevin said, Julio's supposed to be back. I think he comes out his elbow next Wednesday, but him swinging the bat, they said there was a little discomfort, so maybe it might take another day or two. But Julio, Trammell, like this team, Castillo, this team is definitely a playoff team on paper when healthy, and even now. So it's like we were saying before, just relax. I think this team's about to get healthy at the right time. I mean, Jesse Winker did leave the game today with back spasms. As I say that, I just thought about it. But depending on his injury, but this team is about to get healthy for the most part, as healthy as a baseball team could be in August, and it should be fun. So, on all things considered, their starting rotation, knock on wood, has been very healthy this year. The bullpen largely has been healthy. It's just that offense sometimes we haven't really had a full offense, just through random stuff. So basically, with Mitch Henry come back, Julio back, Ty France back, like those are your three guys, and they haven't played basically baseball together this year. So them being in the lineup, you'll kind of see what your baseball team looks like, and it looks pretty good. So I'm excited for the next week. And then, like I said, it gets easier too on Wednesday or this Wednesday. So yeah, beat up on the bad teams when everybody's healthy.
Yeah, my motto for the rest of the season is exactly what Ty France is sharing right here, and that is good vibes only. All right, let's enjoy the end of this season. Playoffs or not, this team has been pretty fun to watch. Pretty fun to just see the players come together. Sean and Kevin said they're building for the future. That's great. You're in the hunt now. Please do your best to make it there. But at the end of the day, let's just all be Suarez, have some good vibes only. And, as long as these players play the way that they're capable of, I think the playoffs will work out itself and we'll break the streak. So let us know what you think of the Mariners and their injury updates, trade deadline satisfaction. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Matt. Sean's at Sean Scobetti. Kev is at C to believe, SEA to believe.
Yes.
Go ahead and like our videos on YouTube, comment, tell us what you think of all the topics that we talk about. Next week or next time we're on, we'll probably have some Seahawks film maybe to watch if we're lucky, and we'll see where the Mariners are sitting. The storm might be done. We'll see if the Sounders can pick it back up. But until then, we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports. Bring back our Sonics.